Welcome to Inside Games, the only gaming news show brave enough to just remake our last episode and then just call it a day. Welcome to Inside Games, the only gaming...
All right. That's a bit harsh. It's a bit harsh of a dig. But after the official reveal of the PlayStation 5 exclusive Last of Us Part 1 remake, a lot of fans out there are wondering where the big improvements are, not to mention why a game that was already re-released in 2014 is getting a third go-around for $70, no less. Meh.
News of this remake originally broke in an April 2021 article from Jason Schreier, and then the PlayStation Store pre-order page for the game went live shortly before its reveal during the Summer Game Fest showcased on June 9th.
Despite the leaks, though, there are still tons of Last of Us fans out there that are just beyond happy with this announcement. It is a 90-second trailer, handful of screenshots. They all look really good, so, you know, we're talking it's just full-on like chef's kiss, Sony's done it again territory for a lot of people, which is great. You know, we're not here to rain on anyone's parade, especially if you like video games, is what we're all about. But, you know, there's a lot of other people out there that see this game as pretty suspect or even downright greedy on Sony's behalf.
So, here are all the issues people have with the remake so far. So first, of course, the most glaring one is the price, $70 for a remake that they remade less than 10 years ago. PS5 remake will also not include the original's multiplayer mode, though it will include the Left Behind DLC, and kind of nobody really played that, and it was fine. I played it. It's fine.
Yeah, the multiplayer, I mean, it was one of those tragedies where it was really good, but nobody played it, so you couldn't really get into any matchmaking settings, and you get story DLC, I guess, to make up for that, so it just sucks whenever a remake has less features than the original. That's not how it's supposed to go, right? The obvious point of comparison here, I think, is Demon's Souls. That's another PS3 to PS5 visual overhaul that costs $70. Now, no one's really thrilled to pay more for video games, and this is just an observation, all right? People seem to accept the higher price point for Demon's Souls, at least they came to eventually, so maybe that will happen here as well.
It's a completely valid point, Lawrence. The second issue people have, out of what we've seen so far, some people aren't convinced that the remake is enough of an upgrade to justify the treatment. This is, of course, subjective like most of this is, but we can understand how, at a glance, this doesn't look like the immediate mind-blowing upgrade from Resident Evil 2, or even Demon's Souls for that matter.
Yeah, again, all we have is that 90-second trailer and some screenshots. Digital Foundry's more clinical analysis called it a superb-looking effort.
The Last of Us Part 1 is a superb-looking effort. This is a comprehensive visual overhaul.
It's just, in reaching that conclusion, Digital Foundry zooms into the small motions of people's lips while talking, or their eyelids as characters look around. It's all really impressive, shows amazing tech and attention to detail, but if you have to look at details this fine to really appreciate the upgrade, it makes sense why not everybody would notice it right away.
Yeah, and it could also be just a combination of a few other factors. The original game's 2014 remaster is already really, really good. It sets such a high bar, both artistically and technologically, that even though it's a remaster of a PS3 era game, it's kind of hard to outdo that, even with modern technology. So there's that. Like, the original was so good, it's hard to get even better. You also just tend in general to get diminishing returns when it comes to graphic improvements, and I think we're really seeing that these days. The fine details and, you know, Ellie's eyelids, that's really cool and all, but it's just not as monumental in immediate perception as giving the character to, you know, visibly express emotions in the first place, or even, like, if you go back far enough, even have a voice or a face you can see. So those are the big milestones. Eyelids kind of drooping the right way. You know, it's cool, but it's like way down in there.
And on to the third reason people are mad, which is a good reason to remind you that these are not our reasons. These are just reasons. We're just beat reporting. Lawrence has written a script according to what he has seen out there on the internet. We're feeling the gamer pulse. That's what we do here at Inside Games.
Very brave, like we say. But yeah, the third reason people are mad is there are some folks out there who are just, you know, really invested, very passionate, and I'll say just kind of weird about The Last of Us and their characters. Specifically, in this instance, a lot of folks are twisted up at the redesign for Tess, who a lot say look visibly older, and then from there you just tumble down a dark void of gamers commenting on people who aren't real and how they ought to look.
Yeah, and there's just no reason for any of that. They did the same with Abby. Who cares? Abby looks a certain way, and then you move on with your life. You're good to go. There's also a spectrum of responses to Ellie's look, which run from innocent, subjective opinions to being deeply emotionally dependent on a video game character's facial structure, which no one should be. Nobody.
Ideally, we all have value systems that aren't closely tied to Ellie's cheekbones, but hey, it's the internet. People have strong opinions about Last of Us characters, but you probably already guessed that if you've been around the block here a couple times.
All right, the fourth reason people are annoyed by this remake, why is the question.
Yeah, we've brought this up a couple of times as part of other aspects, but again, PlayStation already re-released The Last of Us Part 1 in 2014, and that remaster is easily accessible on modern platforms. It's even a part of the PlayStation Plus collection for PlayStation 5.
Digital Foundry's analysis of the trailer revealed that both the cutscenes and environments look identical to the original as well, implying that this game could actually just be a shot-for-shot remake of the original.
Yeah, it's obviously too early to tell. We haven't seen a whole lot, and we have to assume that a remake would have something to add, but what if it doesn't? You can presume some quality of life stuff, UI and all that, but new mechanics, new cutscenes, new story, we're not really seeing that. Then again, just to drive the point home, this is essentially what we saw from the 2020 Demon's Souls remake, a beat-for-beat remake on new technology. I guess the difference is Demon's Souls hadn't been freshly remastered and it wasn't very accessible on newer consoles.
Finally, PlayStation 5 owners are wondering why PlayStation is assigning their studios to work on remakes of remakes when the console could just use more original games. Right now, especially. Amusingly, this is the narrative presented by Schreier's article from April 2021.
Yeah, I have to admit, at the time, I thought it was pretty presumptive of putting that narrative on top of where Sony was assigning their studios and their games, but this is now what people are saying. So, maybe the developers knew it early, like they tend to.
So from a consumer's perspective, this remake feels like Sony I've been saying this for now a year or so. They're just seeing what checks they can cash. They're nickel and diming you with all of their properties. And The Last of Us stamps, you're going to throw it on something, and they're going to try and sell it rather than make some new IP. And, this is normal. This is what Hollywood does. This is what books do. This is what everything does. But there's diminishing returns. The release slate for PlayStation 5 is completely absent of the more boutique-y releases like Unfinished Swan so far, unless you count Astro's Playroom.
They haven't really done any of those like art house downloadable scale. Like Dreams is kind of the last one, and that might have been the last one. They don't really seem interested in doing those sort of like artsy single or AA downloadable games for PlayStation Network anymore. Now the obvious answer here, we're not ignorant. Last of Us Remake is going to sell way more than another Ho-Ho-Kum, which Really, under all of it, people are just concerned that PlayStation is now in the cash grab business rather than curating an interesting lineup for their brand.
I have seen that in their business practices, and that's kind of where it's going. You just add it all up. Maybe not the weirdness about the video game character's visible age. Let's forget all about that. Plenty of folks are just unimpressed that Sony's asking a premium price, the highest price you can ask, for a remake of a remaster.
Yeah, there's even an $80 version that has like gameplay buffs, like you craft things faster.
Oh, come on.
Yeah, it's got that Ubisoft kind of flavor of like, why would we pay more to play the game less kind of feeling about it? But maybe the rationale is, well, I've already played the game. I'm in it just to see the tech, just to see the aesthetic upgrades. I don't want to waste my life crafting, first aid kits and Molotovs. All right, I could see it from multiple perspectives, but still, it just doesn't feel right. It doesn't land right.
Yeah, and again, to put this all in context, what we've been saying, Sony has been shaking down its players for some extra money in lots of other ways. They've just reorganized PlayStation Plus and Now services, like we reported on that, into a 3-tiered plan to invite. They want people to upgrade their account. And that's the way to do it. They're not adding too much in the way of new services.
Yeah, maybe this is what happens when Sony has a big gap in their release schedule. They just flip an old game for $70. That's pretty cynical to say, but also God of War Ragnarok is still supposed to come out this fiscal. So I can't imagine that they knew when they greenlit the remake that they would have to cover God of War slipping into another year. That seems a little weird. So if, it doesn't feel like they fast-tracked this just to cover Ragnarok getting delayed, which it still hasn't. So this is bizarre. So why would you scramble to release this in a year when your revenues are probably already fine, with Ragnarok releasing and PlayStation Now probably getting a bump? I don't know. I
mean, they could also be anticipating an influx of interest in the brand because you got The Last of Us HBO series. I think it just finished shooting. It's supposed to come out next year. I guess rather than have an 8-year-old remaster on deck for people to play, you got a $70 freshly remade game with the newest technology. I mean, it's smart from that perspective, but I mean, again, nickel and diming.
Yeah, you get your $70 from people who are introduced to it from the show. And then when they play the game, you know, they're not playing an old dusty up-res version, they're playing something new, and it's like the best showing for a game and Sony gets paid for it. It makes sense in that circumstance. The thing is, it's not like PlayStation's hurting for money. So the discourse around game pricing is interesting because most people, I shouldn't say most, but people are shockingly tolerant of a price increase just because it's been where it's been for a while now. But game companies are making more money than they've ever made, so it's not like they have to raise prices to keep making money. They're doing just fine where prices are. So PlayStation reported a 175% year-over-year increase in quarterly profit in May and recorded $2.6 billion in profit in fiscal 2021. So they're already doing really great. Maybe, and this is some 4D like corporate chess here, maybe they're going around the company and trying to like suck as many quarters out of the couch as they can to cover their pending $3.6 billion acquisition of Bungie. So if they have $2.6 billion in profit last year, they throw 3.6 on top of that, they're $1 billion in the hole. So they probably, just from the perspective of not wanting to like give Sony's stock a shock when they announce a loss for the first time ever, because they're writing off, I don't imagine they'd write off the whole cost in 1 year, but I don't know, I'm not a businessman. Anyway, so maybe they're going around like, okay, we can project another $200 million from PlayStation Now subscriptions. We have a Last of Us remake. You know, we'll probably make you know X dollars off of that, 10 million. I don't know. I have no idea. But maybe they're just trying to soften the blow of the acquisition.
Lawrence and I have been talking about this. We don't really talk about it on episodes, but occasionally I'll mention it off. Right now, the U.S. and probably the world economy are going into a recession, and I'm pretty sure that I don't know that necessarily all the companies are doing this, but generally, if you've got some levers to pull to squeeze some cash out of an economy that's about to go into recession, you're going to do it. And they got to get the cash as soon as possible because, as always, cash is king when it comes to recession or the economy, you know, stocks going down, whatever, that kind of stuff, crypto going down. You always want cash. So maybe that's what Sony is also trying to do. They're trying to raise as much cash in hand as possible before we really fully go into a recession, have even more of a downturn. I don't know. That could be it.
Yeah, you could be right, Bruce. Yeah, lots of ins, lots of outs to this particular story. Personally, I think the reception was really well summarized by a particular post that I saw on Reddit by more people. Bruce, why don't you read this selection from the internet for us?
More people writes, I'm excited on one hand because finally a reason to use my PS5 for something other than Factions Part 1. But fuck me if it doesn't feel like consumers are being told they should be thankful for one of the most risk-averse gaming generations of all time. The remake will look and play well, I'm sure, but there's zero tension story-wise for a game that's been played to death already. The appeal will be aesthetic, which is fine, but is that really anything of note? What an odd timeline we live in.
It's a real thinking gamers post right there. So it's, you know, nobody's, I think, mad or well, some people are a little insulted by the price, but it's mostly just people wondering like that's what you're choosing to do. So there is one really bright aspect here, and it's that it's coming to PC. Last of Us and Last of Us Part 2 have incredible technology backing their games. I've been really, really excited. Like Red Dead 2 was another game I really wanted to see on PC, but to see Last of Us on PC, I think is really going to blow some people away. Another interesting side note here, Digital Foundry found a lot of similarities in the tech between the Last of Us 1 remake and Last of Us Part 2, supposing that it might be running Last of Us Part 2's engine, which is really, really good, and the idea of seeing Last of Us Part 2's engine running on a PC, it's going to be incredible with like high-resolution assets and everything. I'm really, really excited for that, and I'm really excited for PC players who haven't played Last of Us yet to have access to it. So maybe that's the other aspect to this too, is in remaking Last of Us 1, now they have a good excuse to bring it to PC, a newer platform, and again, charge the $70 for it. So they may be looking at this entirely new market to sell Last of Us to because of PC that makes this all make a lot more financial sense for them to re-release it now.
The question I would like to pose to the viewers, people that are watching still, I know it's kind of late in the episode, but if you have a PlayStation 5, is this why you got it? Are you going to go out and buy Last of Us Part 1, the remake for PlayStation 5 for $70? Like, to play a 10-year-old game. Me and Lawrence, here's the problem. Both Lawrence and I don't necessarily like Last of Us. We're not huge Last of Us fans. So I'm curious to see the, passionate with a capital P fans, Last of Us. Are you absolutely like, yes, I can't wait, I'm going to go spend the $70 right away? Or are you kind of like, ooh, this rubs me the wrong way? And I'm a Last of Us fan. I'm very curious.
Yeah, I didn't get a PS5 for Last of Us, but yeah, like you said, Bruce, not a fan, so it makes sense. I didn't really get a PS5 for remasters or remakes either. I wanted the new stuff. That's coming, you know. Final Fantasy Rebirth is on the way. That's exciting. So it'll justify itself eventually. But yeah, so far, Demon's Souls has kind of been the highlight for me, and Returnal, both stellar games. But I don't know that the PS5 has really justified itself, especially all the websites and lines I had to wait in to finally bag one. But
definitely not worth what you've had to do to get a play, like whether or not you bought it scalped or whether or not you, like you said, having to wait in lines or, you know, wait months for a PlayStation 5. You finally pick one up and then like they're trying to sell you a game they remade a few years ago for $70 that they already remade once before. To me, that's kind of a slap in the face. That is a major slap in the face. But I'm not a Sony fanboy. I'm especially not a Last of Us fanboy.
And yeah, we're both PC gamers, so it's not like we've been starved for ray tracing or any of those goodies. We've been enjoying the current gen stuff for a while now.
You know what? The remakes of these patrons always look amazing. They could remake them over and over and over. I always pay $70 for them. Joshua Smith, Stephen Winston, Loveless, Pitstrip, and Aiden Foley. Thank you for being patrons.
You know what, Bruce? I got some patrons that if they were ever trapped in a medical lab, I'd go in there and rescue them, whatever it takes. Samuel Fisher, Worthlessness, Lenny Neves, Brian Cosner, and Jeffrey Rogers. I do unspeakable things to keep you safe.